There comes a moment in every life when something deep inside begins to stir. It isn't loud or dramatic. It's a quiet realization that things don't have to stay the way they've always been. You might be feeling that very sensation right now, the subtle but restless energy whispering that you're capable of far more than what you currently experience. But what if nearly everything you've been told about change is wrong? What if the notion that transformation demands years of struggle and a perfect lineup of outside conditions is simply a story we've been conditioned to accept? The truth is far more powerful and far more immediate than most people realize. Wherever you're sitting at this moment, your brain is actively creating your reality. Each thought you think, every emotion you feel, and every belief you hold is quite literally shaping the world you live in. This isn't wishful thinking. It's measurable science confirmed in laboratories across the globe. Throughout history, the most successful individuals understood something the majority never fully grasp. Real change doesn't happen when circumstances shift. Real change happens when you shift, and then your circumstances have no choice but to follow. Your outer world is simply a reflection of your inner state, and once you truly grasp that, anything becomes possible. What makes today different from every other day you've thought about changing your life is this. You're about to discover exactly how the process works. Not the theory of transformation, but the actual mechanics of how people break free of old patterns and step into new realities. Are you ready to stop waiting for the perfect moment and start creating it? This isn't just about watching another video. It's about announcing to the universe that you've finished with the old version of yourself. Most people live as though their reality is fixed and unchangeable. They look at their circumstances, relationships, bank balances, or health and conclude, that's just the way things are. Yet, what if that rigid sense of reality is precisely what traps them in the patterns they desperately want to escape? The brain is wired to seek familiarity and predictability, a survival mechanism that once kept our ancestors alive, but now often locks us into mediocrity. The instant you wake up each morning, your mind starts searching for evidence to confirm what it already believes about your life. If you think you're destined to fail, your brain highlights every scrap of proof supporting that belief and filters out opportunities that contradict it. This isn't conscious sabotage. It happens automatically, thousands of times a day. The same neural networks fire in the same patterns, generating the same thoughts, producing the same emotions, and inspiring the same choices. You wake up to the same life, not because change is impossible, but because your brain is literally designed to recreate the known. Here's where things get interesting. Neuroscience shows your brain can't tell the difference between something you vividly imagine and something you physically experience. When you repeatedly think about new possibilities with clear intention and genuine feeling, you begin forging new neural pathways. Each time you activate them, they grow stronger and eventually overpower the old patterns. The stability you think you see in the outside world is really the stability of your inner wiring. Change that wiring, and your outer reality has no choice but to change as well. This isn't magic or delusion. It is the fundamental way consciousness interacts with physical reality. Every breakthrough in human history began with someone realizing that what looked fixed and permanent was merely a reflection of collective thought patterns. What would happen if you quit treating your present conditions as permanent and instead saw them as nothing more than the residue of past thinking? How different might your life look if you recognize that the same brain that created your limitations can also generate your freedom? The mind is the most sophisticated creative tool in the known universe, yet most people use it like a broken record, replaying yesterday's thoughts and feelings. Every thought sends electrical signals through your neural networks, producing chemical reactions that affect every cell in your body. Those chemicals not only influence how you feel, they literally determine which genes get switched on and which stay dormant. Once you understand that thinking is a biological process with measurable effects, everything changes. Thoughts aren't abstract notions drifting through your head. They're physical events that unleash chemical cascades throughout your system. Think a thought of gratitude, and your brain releases chemicals that boost immunity and improve heart function. Think a thought of resentment, and you trigger stress hormones that drive inflammation and weaken the body's natural healing mechanisms. Most people get this backward. They wait for circumstances to change so they can think new thoughts and feel new emotions. But the brain doesn't work that way. It constantly responds to whatever you focus on, whether it's happening in the external world or only in your imagination. That's why visualization isn't merely motivational. It's a biological process that literally rewires your circuitry. Research in quantum physics goes even further, revealing that consciousness plays a fundamental role in shaping physical reality at the subatomic level. Particles behave differently when they're observed than when they're not, demonstrating that your focused awareness actually influences the material world around you. You are not a passive spectator of reality. You are an active participant in its creation. If your attention can affect matter on the quantum level, and your thoughts create measurable biological changes, then your mind is, quite literally, a tool for reshaping both your inner experience and your external conditions. The question isn't whether this is possible. The question is whether you're willing to take responsibility for how you're using that power right now. Your mind is creating your future in this very moment. Each thought you think, each emotion you generate, and every image you hold in your mind instructs your brain on what to create more of. Are you giving it instructions for the future you desire, or are you unconsciously programming it to recreate the past you're trying to escape? The choice is always yours, and the only time you can make it is now. Your body doesn't live in the present. It lives in the emotional memory of everything that's happened up to now. Every experience you've had, every emotion you felt repeatedly, every stress you've endured is chemically recorded in your cells. Your body becomes so accustomed to these familiar chemical cocktails that it actually craves them, even when they're harmful. That's why change can feel so hard. Your conscious mind may desperately want something new, but your body is biochemically addicted to feeling the way it always feels. When you try to think different thoughts or make different choices, your body rebels with uncomfortable sensations, anxiety, or an overwhelming pullback to familiar patterns. You're not weak-willed. You're literally battling a biochemical addiction to your own emotions. Every time you felt anger, sadness, frustration, or stress, your brain squirted specific chemicals your body learned to expect. Over time, your cells developed receptors for those chemicals, just like receptors for drugs. When the level of those familiar chemicals drops, your body signals your brain to produce more, triggering the unconscious thoughts and behaviors that recreate the emotional state it craves. Think about how many times you promised yourself you'd respond differently, only to catch yourself reacting in the same old way. Your conscious mind wanted change, but your body dragged you back to the known. That isn't a character flaw. It's biology, and biology can be understood and overcome. The breakthrough comes when you realize you can deliberately disrupt those patterns. Each time you catch yourself falling into a familiar emotional reaction and choose something different, you break the cycle. It feels uncomfortable because you're essentially detoxing from an emotional addiction. Yet, every time you push through that discomfort, you weaken the old pattern and strengthen your capacity for conscious choice. Your body learned who you are, but it can learn who you want to become. The same neuroplasticity that created your current patterns can create entirely new ones. So the real question is, are you willing to feel uncomfortable for a while in order to feel extraordinary for the rest of your life? The future you want already exists as a possibility in this moment. Most people miss it because their minds live elsewhere, replaying past events or rehearsing future scenarios, unaware that all creative power exists only in the present. The present is where transformation occurs, Not because it sounds spiritual, but because it's the only place you can choose. When your attention is scattered between past and future, you're powerless. You can't change what's already happened, and you can't control what hasn't happened yet. But right now, in this moment, you have absolute authority over what you think, how you feel, and what you decide to focus on. Many avoid the present because it forces them to face reality without the comforting stories they tell about why their lives are the way they are. In the present, there are no excuses, no blame, no victim narratives, only what is, and what you choose to do about it. That level of responsibility can feel overwhelming, but it's also the birthplace of all freedom. When you truly inhabit this moment, something remarkable happens. The mental noise that usually dominates your experience begins to quiet. The constant stream of thoughts about your problems, worries, and past loses its grip on your attention. In that inner stillness, you gain access to insights, creativity, and possibilities that were invisible amid the clutter. The present is also where you connect with the field of infinite potential described by quantum physics. When you're fully here, fully aware and fully conscious, you align with the creative force endlessly bringing new realities into existence. This isn't about positive thinking or visualization tricks. It's about recognizing that consciousness itself is the fundamental creative principle in the universe. What would change in your life if you stopped postponing your happiness, success, and transformation to some perfect future moment and realized the perfect moment is always now? One of neuroscience's most revolutionary discoveries is that your brain never stops changing. Every thought you think, every experience you have, every emotion you feel physically rewires your neural circuitry. The patterns that trap you aren't permanent features of your brain. They're simply well-traveled pathways that can be replaced with new ones. Joe Dispenza has shown thousands of people how to use this neuroplasticity consciously to break free of limiting patterns and create the lives they truly want. The process starts with becoming aware of your unconscious thoughts. Most people think the same 60,000 to 70,000 thoughts each day, and about 90% of them are the same ones they had yesterday. Those repetitive thought patterns create emotional states, which influence behavior, which produce the same familiar results. Breaking the cycle means catching yourself thinking the old thoughts and deliberately choosing new ones. Yet thinking new thoughts isn't enough if you don't also feel new feelings. Your brain pairs certain thoughts with certain emotions, and those thought-emotion combinations form the chemical signature of who you are. To become someone new, you have to practice producing new emotions while you're thinking new thoughts, even before your circumstances give you a reason to feel different. This is where many struggle. They want life to change first, so they can think and feel differently. Yet the brain learns through repetition and emotional intensity, not external validation. When you repeatedly combine clear intention with elevated emotion, gratitude, joy, love, excitement about future possibilities, you literally begin rewiring your brain for a new reality. The key is understanding that your personality creates your personal reality. Your personality is made up of how you think, how you act, and how you feel. If you want a new personal reality, you need a new personality. That means thinking beyond your feelings, acting beyond your familiar emotions, and choosing behaviors that serve your future rather than your past. Each time you catch yourself slipping into an old pattern and consciously choose something different, you strengthen new neural networks. Breaking the habit of being yourself takes energy and attention. Yet every successful attempt proves to you that change isn't just possible, it's already happening. The most empowering realization is that you don't have to wait for your life to change before you can be the person you want to be. You can start being that person right now, with your next thought and your next choice. Your brain will begin adapting immediately, and your external reality will eventually catch up. Quantum physics confirms what ancient wisdom traditions have taught for millennia. Everything that could exist already does, potentially, in an invisible field of pure possibility. This isn't mystical speculation. It's measurable science. Subatomic particles remain in a state of infinite potential until the moment they're observed or measured, at which point they collapse into a specific reality. The implication for your life is profound. Every version of your future you can imagine, healthy, successful, fulfilled, living your dreams, already exists in potential form. You don't have to create it from scratch. You have to tune into it and call it forth from the field of possibilities. What most people don't realize is that accessing new possibilities requires changing your energetic state. You can't connect with a new reality while vibrating at the frequency of your old problems. When you're stuck in familiar emotions like frustration, worry, or limitation, you broadcast a signal that magnetically attracts experiences matching those feelings. Your thoughts are electric, your emotions are magnetic, and together, they form an electromagnetic signature that pulls certain experiences toward you and repels others. If you want to access new possibilities, you must learn to think and feel in harmony with the future you desire, not the past you're trying to escape. That's why visualization and meditation aren't mere feel-good practices. They're technologies for tuning your frequency to different possibilities. When you spend time each day mentally rehearsing the future you want and producing the feelings you'll have when it becomes real, you begin broadcasting a different signal to the quantum field. The field doesn't respond to your words or wishes. It responds to your energetic state. It gives you not what you want, but what you are. Feel grateful, and you attract more to be grateful for. Feel abundant in thought and emotion, and you draw abundance. Be love, and you magnetize love. Most people have it backward. They try to acquire something so they can do what they need to do in order to feel happy. The quantum field works in reverse. You must be the energy of your future first, and then you'll naturally do the things that lead to having the life you want. So ask yourself, what energy are you in right now? And what reality is that energy calling in? Science has discovered that your heart is far more than a pump for blood. It's a sophisticated information processing center with more than 40,000 neurons, its own neural network. Your heart sends more signals to your brain than your brain sends to your heart. And those heart signals directly influence your perception, emotional experience, and decision-making. When your heart and brain are in sync, working in cooperation rather than conflict, your body moves into an optimal state for healing, learning, and performance. Stress hormones drop, immune function improves, and you gain access to higher cognitive abilities like intuition, creativity, and clear decision-making. Most people live in a state of heart-brain incoherence. Their thoughts say one thing, while their feelings say something entirely different. They think about what they want, but feel they can't have it. Their minds set goals while their hearts cling to old emotions and familiar limitations. This inner conflict creates chaos in the system and cripples their ability to create lasting change. Coherence requires aligning your thoughts and feelings around a clear intention. When you think about the future you desire and simultaneously feel genuine gratitude, excitement, or love, your heart and brain start working together instead of against each other. This coherent state exponentially amplifies your creative power. Studies show that when your heart and brain are in harmony, you begin to influence your environment in measurable ways. Plants grow differently in the presence of coherent heart energy. Random number generators are affected by groups of people in coherent states. Even DNA responds in laboratory settings to coherent heart frequencies. This means coherence not only benefits your personal well-being, it enhances your ability to affect the reality around you. So much so that to those who don't understand the science, it may look almost miraculous. How different would your life be if your heart and mind were always pulling in the same direction instead of different ones? The biggest barrier to transformation isn't external conditions. It's the unconscious habit of being who you've always been. Every morning you wake up and automatically slip into familiar patterns of thinking, feeling, and acting that define your identity. You brush your teeth the same way, drive the same route to work, react to situations with the same emotions, make the same kinds of choices. By lunchtime, you've already thought most of the thoughts you thought yesterday, and your brain assumes tomorrow should look like today. Joe Dispenza teaches that to create real change, you must break the habit of being yourself and consciously choose to be someone else, specifically, the version of you who already has what you want. This isn't about faking it or pretending. It's about recognizing that your current personality is simply a collection of learned behaviors and that you have the power to learn new ones. Your personality consists of 3 elements: how you think, how you act, and how you feel. Together, they create a feedback loop that keeps producing the same experiences. Breaking that loop requires conscious intervention at every level. The process begins by noticing when you slip into the old self during the day. Whenever your thoughts, feelings, or behaviors default to the familiar patterns that belong to who you used to be. This demands tremendous vigilance and self-awareness, yet it's the only way to interrupt the automatic programs that recreate your past. Whenever you catch yourself acting as the old self, you have a choice. Continue running the same program and get the same results, or deliberately think, act, and feel as the person you want to be. That decision point is where all transformation happens. It's uncomfortable because it plunges you into the unknown, but it's also where your power lives. The hardest part is your body's resistance. Familiar emotions feel like home, even when they limit you. Stepping into a new way of being feels foreign and awkward at first. Yet each time you choose your future self over your past self, you strengthen new neural pathways and weaken the old ones. Eventually, being the new you becomes as automatic as being the old you once was. Thoughts, feelings, and actions that once required tremendous effort become your new normal. That's when transformation sticks. When your new personality is your new personal reality. Transformation isn't a one-time event. It's a daily practice of choosing to be bigger than your environment, your body, and time itself. Many people underestimate what that takes. They think reading a book, attending a seminar, or having one breakthrough insight is enough. Real change demands daily energetic discipline, the commitment to choose new thoughts, feelings, and behaviors until they become automatic. Your energy is your most valuable resource, and how you direct it each day determines what you create in your life. Every morning you wake up with a limited supply of creative energy. You can spend it reacting to your environment, complaining about your circumstances, and reinforcing old patterns. Or you can invest it in thinking bigger thoughts, feeling elevated emotions, and taking actions aligned with your vision. Most people give their energy away unconsciously. They check their phones and immediately start reacting to other people's lives and problems. They watch the news and absorb fear and negativity. They engage in conversations that drain their enthusiasm. By 10 a.m., they've scattered their energy in so many directions that nothing's left for creating something new. Energetic discipline means treating your energy like a precious commodity. It means starting each day by connecting with your vision and generating the feelings of your future before you interact with your environment. It means choosing conversations that elevate rather than deplete you, and consuming content that encourages growth rather than reinforces limitation. It also requires mastering emotional regulation. Instead of being a victim of whatever emotions arise, you become the conscious creator of your emotional state. When stress shows up, you choose calm. When fear appears, you choose confidence. When doubt sneaks in, you choose certainty. This isn't about suppressing negative feelings. It's about recognizing you have the power to choose your response to any situation. Consistency is key. You don't have to be perfect, but you do have to show up every day. Each morning is another chance to choose growth over comfort, possibility over familiarity, and your future over your past. The compound effect of small, consistent steps in the right direction is extraordinary. Ask yourself, what daily practices would support the person you're becoming? What must you do each morning to ensure you're investing your energy in your vision rather than spending it on old patterns? Transformation isn't magic, but it is real. It doesn't require special conditions, perfect timing, or someone else's permission. It begins the instant you take full responsibility for what you think, how you feel, and what you do with every present moment you're given. Everything you've learned today about neuroplasticity, quantum possibilities, heart-brain coherence, and energetic discipline isn't theoretical. It's practical technology for reshaping your life. The science is clear. When you apply these principles consistently, your brain can change, your body can heal, and your reality can transform. But knowing isn't enough. Without practice, knowledge is just entertainment. So the urgent question is simple. What will you do differently today? How will you think, feel, and act as the person you're becoming rather than the person you've been? Your old life is waiting, ready to pull you back into familiar patterns, comfortable, predictable, known. But your new life is waiting too, in the next thought you choose, the next emotion you decide to feel, and the next action that serves your future instead of your past. The moment you stop waiting for circumstances to change and instead become the change you wish to see, everything shifts. You cease being at the mercy of conditions and step into the role of conscious creator of your experience. This is your invitation to stop preparing for transformation and start living it. The time is now.